Hi friends, it's me, host Eric, host Talking to Famous People. And guess what? Can you imagine somebody said something dumb that made me mad? Yes, it's true. Let's take a look. Nebur. Now this person has a history of saying just incredibly dumb things. But regardless, the problem isn't that they're dumb so much as they're negationary without cause, right? That's what when I use the word dumb and stuff too much, the bottom line is they're negationary without any cause. And Nebur in particular, in these comments anyway, I mean not across the board, really exemplifies what you call intellectual dishonesty. If you want to know what that term means, this is what it means. Nebur says here, oh my god, complete garbage, Eric. Your reasoning for why people you described weren't ENTPs is very shallow and wrong. In the video, 5 signs you're not an ENTP, remember, I explicitly state in the video that I'm not really using reasoning. I'm just highlighting some signs, okay? It's the least reasoned of any of my videos that I can think of, probably. It's just NI. It's just for entertainment, right? I try to make it palatable. People don't provide much reasoning. I'm making a video that people like to watch. Nebur knows full well that nothing I'm saying is inconsistent with what I said in that video. It just lacked any kind of robust justifications. It would be fair to say it lacked those, but it would be incorrect to say that my reasoning was wrong because it wasn't comprising reasoning. It comprised observational stuff, signs you're not a whatever, right? If you talk like Melissa talks, you're not an ENTP. Is correct and factually true and a good sign. But I'm not justifying it. I'm not providing reasons why you should believe me. I'm just providing the sign. Because that's the kind of video it is. This is why he knows this, but he's pretending he doesn't. That's intellectual dishonesty. Just because you see yourself the way based on your experiences as an ENTP doesn't make it valid in terms of other ENTPs. It is true that my experience of myself is insufficient to constrain other people's experience of themselves. True. Okay? And it's also true that my experience of myself is a good source of information for me about what it's like being an ENTP. But most importantly, my externalities, namely things that are not within me, but my displays, my ability to respond to this on the fly like this, and my tendencies, my habits of attention, are exemplifying something, one half of an exclusive dichotomy. I'm either making all these word-talky videos, in which case I'm not hammering and sawing and stuff in my time that is discretionary, okay? You cannot have both. You sort of can, but then that's called ENTP or ESTP. In ENTP, it's I can dig a hole, paying no conscious willful attention to digging the hole, successfully get the hole dug, while making up a poem in my head the whole time. Because that's my 1A. I won't remember digging the hole at all. Now the thing is, say, well, that's your experience, Eric. That's true. But I'm not telling you about my experience. I'm explaining to you how the reality of an intentional dichotomy built of mutual exclusivity plays out in the 1/8 slot. I'm giving you a concrete example. Again, of course, he's being dishonest because that video was not me making stout argumentation about anything. It's a 5 signs kind of video. It's for fun. It's for people who don't want to think. And that's fine too. You don't have to want to think, but don't pretend like you're thinking and I'm not or something in this ridiculous comment. There's an infinite amount of different people with varying capabilities, even though there are finite personality types. There are not an infinite amount of different people. There's about 7 billion or something. That's a finite number of people. But most importantly, there are many fewer configurations of attention than that. There are 16 total configurations of attention. And those attentional configurations do not entirely define a person. True. Instead, they explain a person. So the reason you're so intellectually dishonest is because you're good enough at NITIs, which is sort of objective epistemologies, which is to say they're high enough up in your cognitive function stack that you can sort of tell that I'm right. That you kind of have some sense that you're wrong. But you have some sort of ego or FE attachment or FI thing going on here that I don't know what, it's something subjective that I can only speculate about, that's causing you to willfully present this as your position rather than as an attack on me, which it is. That's all it is. It's a really shitty attack. It comprises no good justifications about anything. You can't reduce people just to their types. So let's look at these statements, right? The first one, your reasoning is complete garbage. It's a statement that is justified with this. Because the people I described for not being ENTPs is very shallow and wrong. The reasoning is very shallow and wrong. So, what is the reasoning? ENTPs can't have physicality? I never stated that reasoning. And the only reason he's even thinking about the fact that I see myself as that is because I explained at the end of the video that it is definitely the case that not all ENTPs are just like me, but that all ENTPs share certain attentional commonalities which allow them to excel at mia in demonstrable ways. And if you can't, then you have two choices. Either you're the shitty kind of ENTP who can't do the cool, fun ENTP stuff, or you're not an ENTP. That's just life. Nebur says Jack Sparrow is ENTP played by ENTP Johnny Depp. Okay, well, whether or not the character is an ENTP is a matter of, it's for moot court, as they say. Whether Johnny Depp's an ENTP, I don't know. I never made any claims about that. Okay, now this next one. This Vainamoinen says, this list reads like a BuzzFeed article made to emotionally tickle some feeling types into resonating with the personality type they chose to be this week. And I said, yeah, I just finished skimming someone trying to actually nail me on that. I mean, sort of legit in this one instance, maybe, but talk about missing the forest for the trees. You know, for the tree, this one tree. I don't normally make videos like this. It is that. I mean, you can critique the video like that, but that's not what Nebur was doing, right? He wasn't saying, oh, this is just NI BuzzFeed candy trash. He was trying to say, I was using bad reasoning, when instead, he would have been correct to say, this is just NI candy trash. Like Vainamoinen says. That's the correct critique of it, right? There are correct and incorrect critiques of things. Peter Dentice notes, funny, the definition you stated for your use of the word unconscious in its adjective form, and what initially came to my mind was it as a noun. So I thought, okay, teachable moment here. But importantly also, teachable moment that I also want to teach about teachable moments. Learn from them so I don't have to repeat myself all the time. This is an important response I put here. It clarifies things dramatically if you actually listen and try to understand. Using it as a noun is using it metaphorically. To say there is an unconscious is to write a poem. My love is a red, red rose exactly as meaningfully and as much as there is an unconscious. In the latter statement, though, an adverb is used to disguise the metaphor. The adverb there. It's no better a disguise than the fake mustache on Rachel, but it fools a stunningly high percentage of people nevertheless. There may function grammatically as an adverb, but in doing so, it just moves the figurativeness to a metaphor of let's pretend thoughts were rocks, or attentional processes were rocks. If there really is an unconscious, give me GPS coordinates articulating the where of its there-ness. So in other words, simply because you get rid of the noun, the unrelated noun that you're metaphorically making equivalent with another noun with the verb to be, just because you get rid of one of those nouns and replace it with an adverb doesn't make the statement less metaphorical. And this is concrete enough and helpful enough and operationalized for you. It's all set up to be used as a tool. So use this in the future. Understand and apply. Now, when I say this, Peter Dentice, I'm really being stern about it, not to you so much as to Jeff Shaw. Because the sternness comes somewhat from the fact that you chose to agree with Jeff Shaw, and so you get a little sternness poured on you. So regardless though, let's look at Jeff Shaw's comment, and most importantly, what we want to do here is learn this time, because I've explained these kind of things many times before. I need to see that you can progress from me presenting curriculum successfully as a teacher. I know when I'm presenting it well and making good explanations and when it's possible to learn it. So I need to see that you're making progress, or I'm going to have to stop repeating the explanations to you because you're willfully trying not to learn at that point. And yes, this is not we're colleagues debating something. This is you are ignorant and need to learn something from me. Sorry, that's how it is. It may not be FE nice or fun, but it's how it is. And let's clarify and explain why it is and how everyone should agree with this right now. Jeff Shaw says, it's a subjective argument, though not operational. Someone could define apple as fruit and it's easy to spell. Others, on the other hand, will define it as a metric or a metaphor. Definitions are not operational, not fodder for arguments. It's a subjective argument, though not operational. Okay. So look, what this word salad is a holocaust of meanings. In other words, it is throwing actual meaning things into the gas chamber. Let's explain why. Arguments cannot be subjective, and neither can operations, both for the same reason. They comprise neither data, nor people, nor calculi. What I do in this video that he's talking about is describe to you a process of communication that makes people who disagree learn from each other despite that disagreement. What Jeff Shaw is describing, let me not interrupt my own well-written comment with my own stupid sidetracking. Instead of only having walled garden definitions that work like subjective data, where I can use mine in my secret room and you can use yours in your secret room, but we can neither use nor see each other's. Instead of only having those kind of definitions, let's consider including operational definitions in a conversation, because those will allow both parties to verify that what Joe says works great in his secret room actually works at all, has any relevance to what works in your secret room, or if so, how you might apply that relevancy. Now, this should be clear. The choice is not operationalize definitions or don't operationalize definitions. The choice is, do I have only subjective definitions, or am I capable of engaging in definitional work with another person? You can have both. Having only this, everyone has some of this, right? I will subjectively define that, I don't like this belt, even though I wear it often enough, because it's too skinny for me. I find it feels like I'm being squeezed by a rubber band. This is a subjective presentation of information to you. There's nothing wrong with me defining good belt as belt that doesn't do that or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's my own secret room where I can do it however I want and nothing matters, right? But here, I'm not talking to myself about a belt. Jeff Shaw's not talking to himself about how he prefers bacon over sausage with breakfast. He's trying to say a world in which nobody can engage communicatively with anyone other than themselves definitionally is preferable to a world in which people can engage with themselves definitionally, or they can work with other people as well definitionally, or both, you know? Obviously it's not preferable to not be able to use definitions in communication. It's not the end of the world if you choose not to use definitions in communications much of the time. But if you want to be right about something like this, then that's a time where if you can't operationalize definitions, you probably make as desperate, grasping attempt to deny the possibility that anybody can. And that is truly one to grow on. Peter Dentice, Jeff Shaw. Look, this last bit. Okay, I'm going to make sure I read this last bit to you. This example should be generalizable for you. Use this as a template for approaching these sorts of questions in the future. I am going to need to limit my long comments going forward. I'm going to limit them to those people who can understand and display indications of understanding without demanding too many repetitions or representations of the curriculum. You're not showing any progress, Jeff Shaw. I'm going to be frank. Peter Dentice, you're not showing any progress. I keep hearing pushback. I don't hear even the progress of humility yet, where you think, okay, I need to stop positioning this as, from what I've come to understand with the cognitive functions, what Eric states in this video on how we should go about using language is a TI position. My understanding of what your comments emphasizing. So the point is, no, Peter Dentice, it's not a TI position. What I'm saying is that when we are doing work as two people of a communicative nature that requires us to have a handshake of sorts, definitionally, in order to, for the right hand to know what the left hand's doing, in order for work to get accomplished, then it's better for us to provide that information to the other person in a way they can use than it is to not provide that information in a way they can use, if that's our purpose of communicating. So it is true, Peter Dentice, that if your purpose of communicating is to annoy me, mission accomplished. It is true, Jeff Shaw, if your purpose of communicating is to annoy me, mission accomplished. But what you're pretending to do, you're pretending to try to be communicating information. So, I mean, obviously, this is me expressing a TI bias here when I say we should operationalize definitions. But most TI people, first and second, themselves do not operationalize definitions. It is really an actual expert bias, right? So anyway, everyone was stuck. And then we got an actual debate coach to come in, and everything became clear. And it all got loosened up because we were all stuck on all these metaphors, and that's what you should be thinking, okay? Because in this arena, the thing you're trying to, the work you're trying to do requires you to use language in communicably accessible ways with other people. You can't do it by simply doing all your work in secret, then reporting what you want about your work to somebody else, and having them take on faith that what works in your secret room is going to work in their secret room. You just cannot do this kind of thinking, this kind of meaningful, logical reasoning work that provides us a map of reality itself that's actually useful and real and meaningful and true, unless you allow yourself to be humble enough to acknowledge that it's sometimes better when other people can critique your work.